video is I am undestroyed. This is a story, and it's a true story, that happened just about a week ago. Claude and Ezzy and I took the kayak up into the White Mountains of New Hampshire, where there is a mountain lake. And it was a Friday, so as I said, it was about a week ago, and we were surprised to see other people up there because it's quite a remote area. And when we went down the winding, bumpy forest road, we parked at the edge of this mountain lake, and we saw another kayaker up there. And it was a beautiful afternoon, and we said, "Oh my gosh, what a perfect day. Have a good kayak. Enjoy your paddle." And as we were paddling across the lake and looking for the loons and looking for the eagles and looking at the little ancient cabins on the side, we saw the other paddler and he was paddling along. We actually saw a swimmer out on the island, and he was getting up on a rock and he was just enjoying nature and loving the day. And then we got to the far end of the lake, and we were like, wow, look at that dark cloud coming. There's something coming like across the sky, something really intense. And I said to Claude, we better turn around. We're going to start paddling back. And as we were paddling back, I saw this other kayaker and the swimmer, they were getting on the land over there on the far shore. And Claude and Ezzy and I started paddling back. And as we were paddling, the waves started to get higher and higher, and the waves were so intense, and the water turned blue-black, and the wind started churning, and the trees were blowing to the sides, like bent over. And then we heard like this roaring sound, and the roaring of the water was coming from behind, like some kind of like monster was like chasing us. But I did not look back. I just kept paddling. I kept paddling, and I saw people scrambling from the edge of the woods, some campers that had picked up their stuff and were like running for the woods off the side of the beach. And Ezzy was getting frantic, and she was like jumping up on the side of the kayak, and the water was like bursting. It was like crazy levels of waves coming over the edge of the kayak. And then this wall of water hit my back, and it like crashed into my body, and it took my breath away. And I was like, oh my gosh, like this wall of water. And we're on the top of this mountain lake. And I just said, keep paddling, keep paddling. And I started to go into almost like an ecstasy. I started like laughing, like from the depth of my soul, like, wow, this wall of water is crashing and the waves are coming over this tiny kayak. And Ezzy was scrambling like she was going to jump off the side of the kayak. So I like grabbed her and I put her under my leg. She was going, oh my gosh, we're going to sink. And all we could do is keep paddling. But in that ecstasy of movement where I was just going, we got to keep going. And I couldn't see anything because the water was so thick and it was smashing us so hard that I had no way of knowing where we were on the lake. And we weren't wearing a life vest because it was a beautiful day. We had no idea that this was even coming. And we kept paddling and paddling and paddling, and we could not look back. There was no way to look back. And so we paddled until we literally came into this marshy area, and then the sun was there, and we started to like get into a clearing, and I could finally see, and we knew we were going to make it to land. And we were totally soaked, like absolutely. There was like water in the kayak. The water was so deep in the kayak that the kayak itself was heavy and we had to turn it over and dump the water. But it was a state of ecstasy. And I was like, we were made for this. We can do this. Like, yes, we can absolutely keep paddling on with this wall of water. And we can do it almost with like an ecstasy and a joy in the soul. And I say, I am made for this. I can do this. I am undestroyed. I am. I am. And we got back and we dumped the water, and Ezzy was sniffing the ground, and there were like these big torrents of water coming down the land and like moving gravel and making a stream right through the parking lot. I am that I am. I am that I am. And I stood there and I thought, oh my gosh, I'm soaked. I'm wearing a tank top. I've got like these soaked flip-flops on. And we put the kayak back up on the car and we were like, wow, what was that? What was that? And it came to me as kind of an experience, but a vision, like of how powerful we are, and that we just have to keep paddling, keep paddling. It reminds me of the story of Orpheus, and he was getting his beloved out of the underworld, and he had to paddle back across the river Styx. And the rule was that if he or his beloved looked back, they would get sucked back into the underworld and they would not make it across the great river out into the light of the upper world. And so I feel like that is kind of a metaphor for where we are right now, is when the earth changes are happening and we have earthquakes and tsunami warnings and we've got big water trines forming all the way through eclipse seasons, all the way through November. We've got these big grand trines and water forming. But there's a benefit to this. It's like we have endured so much and we are such powerful, magical beings that it's like being rested and restful, even in these heightened states, being okay with a wall of water coming at you and knowing that you cannot be destroyed. You cannot be destroyed. And I feel like that is a message, and I just kept walking today. Between sessions, I walked and it's raining and, the kayak is still on the car. And I was like, wow, I've got to just tell everyone this is some kind of like message of what is happening right now and how powerful and magical we are. And last week I had made a pretty potent video about the different suns that are available, and people, they feel like, they've maybe done the wrong thing or they, whatever, messed themselves up. But I'm telling you, we are magical, powerful people, and we are not destroyed. I am undestroyed. I am undestroyed by the weird aerosols in the sky. I am undestroyed by all kinds of weather weapons. I am undestroyed. And my little dog, Ezzy, is sitting here with me, so she might be growling. She's undestroyed. Ezzy is also undestroyed. And people have said to me, like if they've done some kind of wrong path, can they rectify that? Absolutely. Don't look back. Keep paddling. Keep paddling. Keep looking straight ahead and keep paddling, my friends, humanity. Keep paddling. And I was also thinking about Leonard Peltier, who was wrongly imprisoned, in my opinion. He wrote a book while he was in his 23rd year of imprisonment, and it was about his life as an extended agony, wrongfully imprisoned. And he wrote this book that his whole life was like, my life is a Sundance. My life is my Sundance. And so even after being wrongly accused, he wrote this book of a life as an extended agony, but it is our bravery. It is this experience of spiritual renewal when you've been hit by this wall of water and you feel like you might sink. You must just keep paddling, keep going forward. That's the message. I am undestroyed. And I've also been reading this book that I put up today about the shaking medicine. It's a free on the archive.org by Bradford Keeney. And I would love for you all to read this shaking medicine. I have the book right next to me. It's really powerful because it talks about, I'm going to read right to you, from the 1300s and the 1400s, there was a lot of similar stuff to what's going on right now. And in the 1300s, people would get into almost like epidemics of wild dancing. And they would dance for hours and hours and hours until they fell to the ground, shaking in fits of ecstasy. Yeah, we absolutely need a book club. Absolutely, Ashes to Ashes. Let's do that. Let's do that. Let's do a book club on this shaking medicine. So anyways, there were these groups that came out, the Quakers, the Shakers, different tribal groups that also got into this like very ecstatic, fast dancing. And that dancing merges you with spirit. So I love this book called Shaking Medicine by Bradford Keeney. And I looked him up, and he's a really powerful person. He does these dances, and I would say this is what I'm planning also for our retreat. Now, whether you can make it to the retreat or not, please consider reading this book and feeling into like your power. And no matter what tribe you're from, he talks about, like, he studied with the Bushmen in Africa, but he also studied with a lot of native people because they also have the traditions of ecstatic dance and trance dance and shaking and getting that spirit inside and really moving with the spirit of shaking and quaking. So you might want to try this healing power of ecstatic dance because you're supposed to be relaxed and also ready to like really vibrate. And he speaks about the Bushmen, and the Bushmen in Africa were able to easily transform into their star Merkaba and travel what he called the song lines or the ley lines of Earth. And they were also able to travel up to what they called the sky god or the spirit villages. So there's a whole section in here about how the trembling and the shaking of your body is a way to get into your star Merkaba and vibrate really fast, but you don't force it. You kind of just like let the ecstasy of the movement take over, kind of like when I was kayaking, is just start feeling like you are connected to spirit and all that is, and move with a passion, move with an ecstasy. Just make it like your body is this vehicle that can travel. There was also an author, Felicitas Goodman, Dr. Goodman, and she wrote a lot of books. I read a lot of her books about these old traditions, these ancient traditions. And she said what we're really missing here is we have ecstasy deprivation. We have ecstasy deprivation here, where everything's so technological and rigid and scarcity based, and we're all working hard to just pay, to get by every day. We're really deprived of these ecstasy opportunities. And so the ecstatic experience is this vital component of human health and well-being. There was also a psychiatrist that I studied quite a bit, Dr. Stanlaf Grof, who talked about the holotropic breath work. And when you're shaking and when you're dancing, you're also like inhaling and exhaling really deeply, kind of like when I was paddling so hard, I was taking deep belly breaths to keep making it across these high waves in this incredible water. So, you are an active being. It's the exercise that gets the exorcism going. Like you have to move your body. Ashes to Ashes is saying that there's another really good book that he's or she's reading called Of Water and Spirit. Yeah, like there's a lot of good books out there. And we've got to go into some of these various Aboriginal, original people like the Bushmen and other groups that were into these shamanic procedures, which are our natural birthrights. That is what we naturally are, is we are ecstatic, magical beings. And they've kind of civilized us, right? Like you got to get your registration and you've got to pay your taxes and you got to work your 9-hour job and do it all on some stupid machine that means nothing and doesn't care about you at all. So, dancing and connecting to the earth and really feeling the ecstasy that you are. That's a primary experience here, particularly because we're going through a big shift again, right? So something is happening. We're definitely having earthquakes and tsunami warnings, but like the tsunami didn't bother me. I was ecstatic. And it's kind of like when I was doing that conversation with Nish at the Cosmic Salon about navigating the high seas of 2025. I was made for this. Like the water whips you, and then you go, yes, I was made for this. We're made for this. Just be undestroyed. So if you feel like you haven't navigated all that well, don't look back. Don't look back. Keep paddling forward, my friends. Keep paddling and get like a deep ecstasy in your belly. Like, not only is this absolutely crazy and fascinating as these walls of water are pelting us, but I'm capable of this. I am undestroyed. I'm gliding across the high seas of 2025. Now, I want to talk to you a little bit more about this man, Leonard Peltier, who was imprisoned wrongfully. And now all of you might be studying my astrology videos, so I'm gonna ask you to do something right now because we're gonna study the moon and the moon cycles this week. I want you to look at a chart, run an event chart. It's called an event chart at astro.com in the free horoscopes in the extended chart selection. Put in an event chart for January 19th of 2025, and then go down to additional objects and make sure the house system is whole signs, and then go down into the additional objects and put in number 3850, 3850. And there you will see the asteroid Peltier, and run the chart for January 19th of 2025. That was his release date. And I think you're going to find something really interesting, because the other thing I want you to know is this whole experience, whether people can fathom this level of it or not, this whole experience is kind of scripted. It's kind of already written in the stars. There's not a lot to worry about. Just keep going. Like Leonard Peltier, he wrote in his 23rd year of imprisonment that his life was an extended agony, and he had to have huge bravery to not let go of his spirit. Just be undestroyed. I am undestroyed. I am undestroyed. And it's quite effortless to keep moving forward. Have fun. Go out when it's raining. Go out when it's sunny. Dance your best dance. Shake your medicine. Tremble, vibrate, be the magical human that you are. So I want to thank everybody who got on this live stream with me today. And I hope that you are undestroyed and you are moving forward and not looking back and just keep paddling, my friends. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Psyche Kaleidoscope. Thank you all so much for listening and being on this magical journey. I know it might feel like an extended agony, but at the same time, there's an ecstasy deep in your belly, deep, deep in your belly. All right. So enjoy the day, and I'm going to go enjoy the day and full steam ahead. Yes, Loveline Bundle, full steam ahead. Yes, Lynn. Have a beautiful day, everybody. And I'll be on the Zoom call. Thank you, Jane. Thank you, Ashes to Ashes. Love you all. Have a wonderful